Hello world, and welcome to the Pop Culture Patter podcast. As always, I'm your host, Callum Brown, and today's guest is Kaitlyn, from a country and western clothing store at the Barra called the Cow People. Kaitlyn and I get into it about being an American in Glasgow and all things country. Kaitlyn is hilarious and a total legend, so head down to the Barras, say hello, and tell her Pop Culture Patter sent you. As always, this podcast was recorded with my good friends at the Podcast Studio Glasgow, the East End of Glasgow's digital creative hub, and the only podcast studio in Scotland to offer 18 years of experience in the medium and is ran by a pioneer in British podcasting. To find out more information about the wide range of services offered or to book a session, please visit www.podcaststudioglasgow.com. And before we get into this episode, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
This podcast is brought to you by Brown & Co Properties, an award-winning family-run estate agency based in Whitburn, West Lothian. With a Property Mark protected service for a fixed fee, we are your go-to agent for expert property sales advice in the area. Get on the go with Brown & Co.
Kaitlyn, welcome to the podcast.
We're live.
We are live.
Holy hell. I'll have to make my accent more
American.
Old West.
Yeah.
But it just sounds like this. You caught me.
And first of all, how are you?
I mean, every day I feel like I'm shot out of a cannon. So yeah, I'm still here. I'm still kicking. I feel really good. The pandemic sucked. Working at the Barras is rad. It's my favorite thing I've ever done, actually. And I've done so many weird, different things.
Yep.
And it's only been a few weeks, but it feels like I've probably done it in every former lifetime. Feels like a homecoming. It's very nice.
And this is your first time on a podcast?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is mad.
But people often accuse me of living in dog years. So I might have been on other podcasts and I don't...
You don't know.
Remember. And I don't. But let's say it's the first one.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that.
Great.
We're breaking your podcast cherry.
Amazing. That's
do you listen to any podcasts though?
I do. I've got one I've listened to for like 12 years.
Oh.
It's called Baby Geniuses. And it's these two women in LA. And one of them is a real horse girl. She loves horses. And she has a horse, and then the other one, and she's the animator on BoJack Horseman, Lisa Hannah Walt. I'm like the biggest Lisa Hannah Walt fangirl in the world.
Nice.
And anyway, it just feels like hanging out with old friends, even though they don't know me. And sometimes I send them creepy emails, but they don't normally read them, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's all the boundaries we have with each other.
And outside of the Western thing that we're going to get into with your job, do you have any pop culture interests?
Recently, I have been rewatching reality TV from 2009 to 2014.
Okay.
I guess it's the first time that we've been just in the linear nature of time. It's the first time that we've been able to look back on that era nostalgically or something, where I'm like, oh, capri pants and headbands, and oh, she must have looked, she looks cute, like for back then, but also
for back then.
But still now, and look at them, and I don't know, they were kind of crafting reality TV, I think, even though it had been around since maybe like 2003 or something.
Yeah.
But just like being like a reality TV celebrity or I don't know. I'm just watching real shit, and then I'll watch amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I just finished Last of Us.
Okay. Which for me is hugely controversial because I love the game that it's based on. So I've played through that as an experience of you're playing the characters.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching the show. It's the first time I've watched something and been like, I don't actually know if I like this, but I love the game. You know, it felt very much of like a remake of it, but just so rushed and condensed into like a couple of episodes. But I mean,
Pedro Pascal's kind of like the guy at the moment, isn't he? He's kind of everybody's crush.
He's the it girl. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's called the internet's daddy.
Oh, I like that.
I don't know if you have to earn that when you get a little bit of salt and pepper in the beard or what that means, but I genuinely do hate the word daddy. It creeps me the fuck out every single time I hear it, even when I'm saying it. I've said it 4 times already. When you were speaking about reality TV shows, and specifically what shows was it you were watching?
I don't want to say. I was watching The Hills, which is just 20-somethings in Los Angeles trying to make it. What else was I watching? I don't know. I go in between, and then I'm a real masochist. So like, I just started Love Is Blind again.
Okay.
Which is just, it feels like you're at your own like confirmation again, where you're like standing in a Catholic church and everyone's like, "You're not queer, right?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure." Like, Love Is Blind is pretty rough. And that's all I'm going to say.
I've not actually seen it, no.
I mean...
But you've come over here from the States, and you're actually from Springsteen country as well, in New Jersey.
I am from the hometown of the born in the USA man.
The hometown that he was writing about escaping but lives 5 minutes from.
Yeah, exactly. Also, something fell.
Yeah, it's just a light.
Yeah, and I really resonate with so much of all of that, because I came to Glasgow. Originally, I studied on exchange here.
Right.
Like a real basic bitch. Can we curse?
Yeah, of course you can.
It's bitchy curse. And I loved it. I didn't know what was going on. Like, I had a flat in Postle, and I can't believe I survived. I thought it was amazing.
Jesus.
I was like, there's foxes everywhere. Everyone's hilarious.
Everybody seems happy and drunk all the time.
Yeah. Like, this is so convivial. And I would just go near the canal, like, at night. I'm like, it's so good to live near water. And it was wild. So, and there was a smack van, but I thought they sold ice cream. But it was winter, it was 2 a.m. and there was an ice cream truck with music. And I was just like, this is just the most charming neighborhood I've ever lived in. So I originally came there then, and my first weekend ever actually here, I went to the Barras. Okay. And I think that's why I'm loving doing something there right now, because it was my first impression of Glasgow. And normally your first impression, I think, isn't an accurate and comprehensive like depiction of something, but in this case it was. It's like just this like kind of like crash course in like everything Glasgow. And I was there and I was like, if this is what it is, I love it. I bought a bike and I just like drove straight and like, I don't know, down the wrong side of the road. And like how I survived. I mean, how I survived.
At what point when you were living in Postle did you realise that you were living in the shittiest area in Glasgow?
Literally, okay, so I was here on exchange, then I went back to America for ages, and then got an Irish passport, fought my way back here. I don't know when that was, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And I hope my bolo ties aren't clinking together too loud, by the way. And yeah, I came back and it just waves over me, both like, you know, when you're like blackout drunk, but you get the memories maybe much later.
Yeah.
So living in Postle it felt like that. It felt like a couple months of maybe being blacked out and doing quite a few things, and literally a blackout within a blackout. Like I was also blacked out there quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how I'm still here.
You're a long way from Kansas, Dorothy, is how I would like to describe it, because I can imagine New Jersey's so different to here.
Yeah. So anyway, I really resonate with Bruce because I've come here and I was like in New Jersey. I mean, there's not, I guess it's easier with distance to like really make it like nostalgic and romantic, but you are always just like at a Starbucks next to a freeway or at a diner, and you don't realize that there's not diners everywhere. So you're like, whatever, I could just be at a diner anywhere else.
Yeah, you're not
and that would be better.
You're not selling New Jersey to me, though.
But diners. And so you think there's diners everywhere. There's malls. It's in the shadow of New York City. So you have all the frenetic kind of like chaotic aggro-ness. Everyone in New Jersey is like Scorpio rising, I like to say. You've got all that energy, that chaotic energy, but none of like the Met or the, I don't know, like the just Broadway, or I mean, I hate musicals, but yeah, you're not in New York City. You just have the like chemical experience of it within your body.
Yeah.
But now that I've been away for so long, I miss it. But I don't miss quite what it was. I miss the idea of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of, my thing at the Barras is kind of creating my own idea of it. Obviously, New Jersey's pretty far north, given the map of the United States.
Yeah.
But I like to say anything south of Canada is the South, and the West and wild. You don't have healthcare. I mean, it's lawless. So
how mad is it going from that to having healthcare here? Like, because I don't know how, I don't know, like, the logistics of how much it costs for, like, if you break your arm or whatever to get it fixed. But
you can't break your arm.
No.
You don't break your arm.
No.
If your arm's broken, you don't tell anyone. The number, I mean, yeah, not to get too dark, but the number of times I've seen people hit by cars in the States get up and say, no one call the ambulance, I'm fine. When they're like literally not. They're like standing on broken ankles and they're like, because you don't want to wake up with like a hospital bill for like 80 grand.
What?
Yeah. Everything, like a broken arm is easily 20 grand.
I would expect
maybe
them
14.
to make me the Terminator for that amount of money.
Yeah. The economics of it. I mean, yeah, I had to pay $1,200 once for just getting a bad sunburn. Like, you don't go to the hospital. You don't. And so you treat everything yourself. You're quite strategic in that way and scrappy.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I really like that I have that skill now, but it's hard won.
Yeah. Is there any point that you still think that when you hurt yourself, you're like, I'm not going to the hospital?
Yeah. No, I still don't, actually. Because even in the States, when you go to the hospital, you're like, okay, I don't know how much that costs. And they're like, it's okay. We'll send you a bill later. And so you like check the mail for like up to 9 weeks every day, just ripping everything open, and eventually it'll be a bill. And if it's less than 14,000, then you only had an ingrown toenail or something. It's going to be more than 14,000. Yeah, and you got student debt. It's wild.
I know.
You got a wheel and deal.
Yeah, we've got it made. And the thing is, when we're in Scotland, we're like, we want to go to America because it's the land of opportunity and
I know.
land of the free.
That's why I'm selling American shit here. I'm like, just here's the gift shop, don't go.
Yeah, and that's a nice segue into the Cow People, the country and western clothing shop that you've got at the Barras now. How did that all come about?
This is a good question. So Cow People, I call it Cow People, but the Instagram handle's The Cow People because Cow People was taken by a woman 8 years ago who has one follower and posted once and won't give me the handle.
Oh, wow.
And that's my worst problem. So I'm glad we've bottomed out. Worst problems. Just kidding. Horrible problems. So Cow People is, I don't know, a bit of like a fever dream of just like wanting to actually do something in the world. Like I've worked online, like my 9 to 5 is online. Dolly reference. And I've been working online since the pandemic, and I just got really weird. I would like, if I left the house, I'd be like, oh, people have like backs of heads and like texture and stuff, like be like a little bit too close to a person, being like, there's so much texture and no pixels. And yeah, I don't know, became like a weird type of incel I couldn't quite find on the internet. Not even, just without a community.
Yeah.
Being an incel but without the community really sucks.
So you were still selling the same clothing but just online?
No. Doing like boring bureaucratic design work for like governments and banks and stuff. And yeah, no. Like I've not done anything like this really. And but I've always collected country and western stuff and loved it. Loved the music, the movies, everything. Kind of, I don't know. I've been in Scotland and thought, maybe there will be like a time I move back to the States, like a kind of full circle thing. And then it's like, oh, can't get an abortion anymore. Oh, and you just sort of like, now that it's been the better part of a decade, I'm not like hungry to go back. But I did just think, in the kind of like romanticism of like a journey and coming full circle, maybe that would happen. And then I'm like, that's not going to happen. But also you're here and you're like bitching about Brexit and pandemic was rough as fuck. And like, just show up and like be the person you want to be and like do something cool in the world. Don't try to like meet someone who's doing something cool so you can like leech off of that or like whatever the fuck else. Just like, because I don't know. I was just like, oh, I was just so adrift. So I was working online for ages. Before that, I was a teacher. I used to teach at GSA.
Oh, wow.
And that was great. But there was like so many people and conversations and it was so social and it was great. But again, it all changed during the pandemic. So left that, just became like a Microsoft Teams dusty bitch. And then wasn't even putting like shoes on anymore and stuff. And I have like closets of cowboy boots. And the final straw was like this, I guess it was maybe like November, early December, one of my good friends was having a Western themed birthday party at the Star Bar. And I was just like, I got really sick and I was sick for most of like November and December. And I was just like, remember being in bed, looking at like closets of cow people stuff, just like every leather coat, every suede fringe thing, every bolo tie. And I was like, you're just like not living a life with like anything like the things you love. You're just wearing pajamas with paint on them. And
it's a good way to put it.
I don't know, like, getting Wi-Fi broadband routers to make even more of your house more Wi-Fi. Like, I kind of hate the internet. And so I just like had to change things. So this is kind of my passion project. And I'm obsessed with the Barras, and I've been going to the Barras for like total of like 10 years. And I used to go to the Barras when I first moved here just to test how fluent I was in Glaswegian. And it literally took 4 years.
Wow.
It was 4 years.
Wow.
But I do remember that time I went and I was like, I've actually understood everything more or less that everyone said to me here today.
Well, you're the first American guest that I've had to interview, so I was worried. Is she going to understand my accent? Am I going to need to dumb it down? And then I thought,
a light accent,
she works at the
bro.
fucking Barras. She knows exactly how to read, but the Barras is such a unique place, and I think when you went there for the first time and then you're starting to put this all together, did you realise, yes, this is where I want to put a shop, when you started putting that out? Yeah,
I would only want to do it there. And I remember going there quite a few months ago and just seeing that there was new life being like breathed into it, but in the right way, which I had never seen in my life. Like, I lived in, I don't know, Finiston before it got whatever it is now. And gentrification does seem to follow me.
I'll say it, super wanky.
Yeah, the most ever. Gentrification seems to follow me. So I guess I'm complicit in that. But the Barras is being revitalized in this way that is just genius. I just think the people that are doing it are gifted.
Yeah.
They've got a brilliant social media person named Ash, and just like they know to keep like the DNA and the footprint of everything that everyone loves about it and amplify it instead of put things that clash with that and create this like separation. But at the same time, it's like is for everyone. Like they can also throw a bunch of, I don't know, random kind of more like hipstery things in or whatever, even though I don't like using that word. But and it'll still work because it's a pick and mix. Like it's just like a lottery and it's for everyone. It's like New York City where you're on the subway with just like a banker wearing like a full suit and like someone carrying a pit bull in an IKEA bag and just whatever else, everything in between. And it's for everyone. And no one's like, this is mine, you have to go or something. It's just like everyone coexists and it's mad.
Yeah, but there is a
madness.
culture of the Barras in general. There's a real feeling to it, and as soon as you walk under that archway, you feel like you're entering a new world. And it's great to see some of the businesses setting up there, and that's now going to be a kind of hub for all these places. Like I know. We get introduced together through Mark, who runs the studio. He was down the Barras and he was just like, I've not been to the Barras in years.
Yeah.
And there's so many amazing places. And he was like, reach out to this person, reach out to that person, get them on your podcast. They're all really interesting.
Do a Barras or at least like a mini series within your.
I have reached out to a few and they've not got back to me. So I'm thinking I'd best just go down and cut about. But
you got to go.
The Barras used to be a place where there's a little bit of that aspect still there that, like, you know, the goods have been robbed the night before and they've just pitched up to try and get a quick sale. There's always like a guy that's got like a duffel bag full of like DVDs and you're like, mate, it's 2023.
I love
Who
DVDs.
fucking watches DVDs? And he's just like legging it from the police. The DVDs are all like coming out of the bag. But it used to be a lot rougher. It's cool to see it. But because that area as well, there's just something unique about it, and they've got the Barrowlands playroom in there as well, and it's just, that's the best place in Glasgow for a gig.
1,000,000%. That is my favourite place to see people ever. I'm a big fan of the Flaming Lips, and that was the best gig I ever saw. I think it was maybe 5 years ago, not their more recent one. No offense to them, but like Wayne Coyne, he was like the more recent one. He was like in this inflatable hamster ball, but he kind of like got the fear, and he just wasn't. He was just in the ball, and I was like, "You're just a bubble boy on a stage if you're not standing on top of me, like singing."
They're quite an out there band,
David Bowie. So they're incredible. But yeah, it's the best gig space. And the first, it feels like years now, but the first time I had a Cow People stall live, I was setting it up the Friday night before, strapping a bunch of horseshoes with genuine horse shit on them to like this little archway above my stand, and stringing some stuff up, and there was just like rehearsals through the floor. Like I think Death Cab was just like rehearsing, and I was like, this is just such like, it's like acoustically, even if someone plays a song at the Barras that I hate, like even if someone's playing Ed Sheeran, it's still just like one of the better songs I've ever heard. It's just like circumstantially really, or situationally really good. Yeah. Like, but they play, oh God, just like they're playing Neil Young and just so much good shit, so much Johnny Cash and everything, and I just love it. So it like music is so important to country and Western culture and style and everything, and I'm selling more than clothes. Like, I mean, I sell belt buckles, but I also sell memorabilia. Yep. So besides the clothes and the bolo ties and the belt buckles, I'm going to have a Dolly Parton week, which is just Dolly Parton memorabilia, including like stuff that's bought at Dollywood, like just really funny shit. And so, I'm kind of just like selling the experience, I guess. Yeah. And it's like whatever you want to make it, because that's what like the Wild West is. It's like for like reinvention and transformation, whatever. Yeah. So I just think like the Barras, it's like culture with like music and also just like fierce individualism. It's like the perfect place for it.
Yeah, and I've got to say, Glasgow's probably the only place that you wouldn't look twice at someone wearing Western gear.
Yeah.
I think everywhere else it would look out of place, and especially the Barras, you would imagine people wear like the frilly jackets and the cowboy boots and stuff,
Yeah.
It wouldn't look out of place. Nobody would be like, look at that guy, like, it looks ridiculous, but...
I think people go from the Barras to the Opry quite a bit.
Yeah.
Just on that.
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
that cycle.
And where do you source all the stuff from?
The States, yeah. So I guess like I like to call it collecting, but I've been hoarding. The reality is I am a hoarder. And so I was like collecting stuff that, wasn't even like in my size remotely, or that I've just not worn for like, I think they say like, if you haven't worn it in a year, get rid of it. I'm like, I haven't worn that in 7 years. But so from the States,
right.
And got like different means of doing that as well. Like if a friend's coming over, I'm just like, fill your suitcase, buy another carry-on. Postage is expensive, so I'll buy like from collectors in the States, as long as it's just like a bulk batch. So I'll buy like whole collections of bolo ties or belt buckles, and that's really fun because it tells the story of someone's life. And like, I buy a lot of stuff from retired line dancers, and sometimes they've like toured internationally and they're like in their 80s now, and they just. I mean, sometimes it's quite sad to buy someone's collection because it does mean like the sun is setting on that hobby or that passion that they had. But at the same time, they like to see it live on. And they know that people that get this stuff are really going to love it.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's like weird batches of stuff in like there's a lot of country western stuff in like Ukraine as well and stuff. So it's all originally from the States, but sometimes I'll buy from people that are also not technically based in the States because they've gone out of their way to collect stuff, and it just is like a interesting way to kind of bring it all together again or something in a random place for
And it's all secondhand, so there's nothing that's like, you don't work with companies that are giving you stuff for like that are new. It's all kind of secondhand and lived in. That's the appeal. That's what it's all about.
Yes, and as it grows, though, I'm going to have a balance of because I am originally a designer, so I'm going to have a balance of stuff that I design. Like I've got an embroidered like bandana collection that's coming out. It's in the works. I'm working with my friend Carrie on that. It's really exciting. And another friend who's a leather worker. She lives in Arbroath and she sources leather locally and is just genius. She converted her van into a mobile leather working studio for me because she's currently in Switzerland, and so she's like making belts and like cool spurs and stuff there, and then she's gonna bring it back up. So I do new stuff when it's like
that,
like where there's like still a story to it, and it's really locally crafted, and it's ethical, and it's well made. And then vintage stuff and collectible stuff when like that's the case. So just like a good mix.
And what clothing from the Western kind of attire is your favourite, and what you have the most of?
I mean, I'm obsessed with, I guess there's not one clear name for them, but they're kind of line dancing shirts, or they're called like Western snap shirts because they've got those snaps, but just like where you've got the embroidery on either kind of lapel, you've got fringe, just like they're like two-toned, they've got the lining, the piping. There used to be, working at the Barras is incredible because you learn. Like I'm also not doing country and Western stuff as the expert. I'm doing it as the facilitator. Like I want people to teach me stuff about it. And I'm not saying I'm like the encyclopedia of any of that. So there used to be this guy apparently called Arthur Black who would make custom cowperson shirts like that, tailored to all your measurements for a $5 in like decades and decades and decades ago. But guys were telling me about him last week. And so, yeah, I love fringe and embroidery are my two favorite kind of things about Western clothes for sure. And just like the craftsmanship. And it's just like, I don't know, like unmitigated like design choices. Like often, I don't know, as a designer, you have to like justify every design decision. But then you see a wild shirt that is just like red, green, and yellow and has like saddles and flowers embroidered on it and like pink fringe and stuff. And you're like, that's great. Like that's just someone who's like, yeah, this is going to be shit hot. I'm not going to justify it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of am enjoying going deeper into the country and Western aesthetic just to shed all the things about being a designer that like hold me back from just being creative, because graduated from art school like 10 years ago and I just felt like I hadn't had a good relationship with my creativity since then. And this is the first time that actually I'm like, feel like I am just like in the driver's seat and not just like bricking it or like feeling like I'm compromising or really scared.
And how does it feel going from the job that
Although
you had that was
scary.
the 9 to 5 that you had?
I've still got that.
Yeah. But now that you're doing something you're passionate about, do you feel like it's lifted you like a little bit? Yeah.
It helps everything. I mean, it's still a grind. I'm really time poor, but I'm figuring it out, and it's really nice to just be like my passion and my hobbies and like real unbridled creativity can be in this.
Yeah.
And it, because I was like doing stuff where like, I don't know, I was just like being silly, like staying up really late, watching trash reality TV and stuff, and waking up so early for work and stuff, and just being like, why am I doing this? Why am I like devastatingly tired for like no real reason and stuff? And it was because I wasn't excited about anything I was doing. Yeah. So I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna like let this all wash over me. So I went to bed at like 10 last night. I'm just like excited for the weekend, but not in a way that I'm like, feel lost or aimless. I'm just like, this is awesome. Yeah.
And you're doing it. So how long have you been at the Barras?
It's only been like 3 weeks.
Wow.
I know, right?
That's insane.
But people, it's so amazing. It's so funny because like the first time I ever went there with the first Saturday morning that I was going to sell stuff, I just had like sweatpants and like a sweatshirt on, but my cowboy boots. And all the stuff was in containers, and I was like trying to get it set up as fast as I could and stuff. But someone from like down a building was like, "Are you cow people?" And I was like, "Yes, but you've only clocked me from like my boots and like just like a glimpse within like a clear container." And I was like, "That's good.
Yeah,
that's strong branding."
Absolutely,
like, so people constantly are just like, "You're cow people," and I'm like, "I am cow people." Yeah.
And the people that shop at the Barras are passionate about the shops that are there. I know there's like Right Magazine and stuff like that, and you know, people are so into getting those magazines, and there's a real passion for people supporting those businesses as well. So it's really, really awesome to be around, and I'm looking forward to coming into the shop just to see what it's like.
Yes.
And I did tell you I'm in the market for a pair of cowboy boots, which is so weird because Mark and I were having a conversation in the studio about 2 weeks ago, and I said, "Do you know what, man? I've been watching Yellowstone, and I've totally been." Is
Yellowstone good?
Yeah,
I've not engaged.
Makes you want to be a cowboy.
So that's the feedback I've gotten from customers, but I've not engaged with it yet.
Yeah,
but it was because it was so popular, and I just never watch anything that's popular.
Yeah,
I mean, I watch White Lotus and I watch good popular stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying Yellowstone's bad.
No, I know what you mean. It's kind of like when too many people are watching it, you're like, nah, puts you off a bit. But I mean, I've got into it late. I've had to catch up. I think it's on its 5th season. But just the visuals of it, and you know, I was like, you know what? Something I've always wanted to do is learn how to ride a horse. I want to go and learn how to ride a horse, and I want to just like cut about a horse. And I just totally was like, I'm going to be a cowboy now. I'm going to wear cowboy boots. And I was saying to Mark, I'm going to get a pair of cowboy boots. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, I I've just met a country and western clothing girl down at the Barras. They've got loads of cowboy boots, and they're just like, this is some full circle shit here.
Yes. It's all about manifestation. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's...
But it looks like online that your engagement with the customers, that like people are really interested in and have a bit of chat and stuff. Has there been anybody that's donated any clothing yet?
Yeah. I've got some feral cow people who've come up and sold me their collections of belt buckles and stuff like that. I buy as well as sell, of course, just to keep like the best stock in, and it just like fully stocked. Because the first weekend, like I basically sold out. It was crazy. It was this event called the Hong Kong Market that was on at the Barras, and I think someone said it was the busiest they'd ever seen the Barras since 1995.
Wow.
But it was like a roaring success due to like the amazing team that works there. And so it's been really great because I've met a lot of people from the Opry who've come up to me and like given me their numbers, and like I'm going to go to their houses and see what they have, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I used to wear this stuff all the time. Now I maybe only need like a couple pieces for like an occasional Opry weekend. I'm not, I'm not like full in it anymore. I don't know. It's been really funny. Like I had a bunch of Garth Brooks like vintage t-shirts, and this person was like, how much is this? And I was like, oh, it's this. And then she was like, fine. And then she bought it. And then she was like, it's actually a pretty good deal because it's Garth Brooks Appreciation Night at the Opry tonight. You could have got a lot more. And like, I love when people like own me as well. Just a full circle of wheelers and dealers. It's been a blast. But yeah, the other like businesses that are there, the other traders, it's so like such an honor to call them like colleagues and stuff, and they all immediately like band together. And there's this person that's like dead set on selling me this like giant moose saddle. I didn't know people like rode mooses, so I'm gonna buy it because I'll buy almost anything. But it's really fun, because it's not just a one-way street.
Absolutely,
you learn as much, I've got like also just like amazing people who my friend Leanne has a stall next to me, and she'll just like be like, I went to Paul Madi at like 5 a.m. and like someone had boots, and she'll just throw them at me and stuff. And I'm like, this is amazing. Because people just, once they know like, oh, she's doing country western, then
you're the girl.
Whatever they see, they're just like, I think she'll want it.
Yes.
The truth is, I am incorrigible and insatiable. I want it all.
And how much of the story of the clothing, like, is part of this? Because do you tell people when they're buying it, that's the story behind this? You know, is that a thing?
Yeah. I think some of the objects I have more of like a known history behind them than others. Some of them I've like bought on a road trip that I took between California and Texas, and others are like a retired couple who line danced, who traveled across the world but like live now in the south of England. And I try but it's not also like, it's not a one-way street. Like I want people to tell me kind of why they like country and western stuff, and what about being a cow person resonates with them. So it's just really like amazing conversations, because they'll, I don't know, like I also like it. So like it's called Cow People, to just be really like inclusive and democratic. And I think, like the dream of being in the Wild West is a lot about like freedom and reinvention and transformation, and just being like, I don't know, self-sufficient and whoever you want to be, like this frontier that just allows you to shed everything that maybe wasn't serving you or holding you back. So I have a lot of amazing queer customers and trans customers, and just an incredible community. Like I want it to be really intersectional. So I also, have, like, I don't know, older men from the Opry who probably like would own a gun if they lived in America or something. Like it's just very
inclusive.
Yeah, it's just very like the whole spectrum of humanity.
Yeah.
And I'm just really delighted that they all can come together and like love this.
Yeah, and I love the name that it's the cow people. You are the cow people. You all are. You know, it's a community.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not called cow person. Like it's people.
That,
It's for the people.
Yeah, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
Do you plan to take it online? Do you have it online, or do you just do the weekend at the Barras?
I want it to be in person and as much as like being in the Barras as possible, because I think like we're all overly online
a
lot.
Tell me about it.
And I don't want to give more reasons for people to be online, even though I mean I'm like doing my best to like keep the social media, I would say, like I've not been on social media for like almost a decade. Like I was like profoundly off grid as much as I could be, besides like what work made me do. And so being on the internet is some like horrible thing, but it actually is.
Yeah.
But anyway, my re-emergence into social media, it's been really interesting, but I've never, been like a hype person for my own project. So it's actually been exciting because I'll have people like drive through from like Dundee and stuff to come because they saw it on Instagram and they loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm always really touched by that. But I don't want to sell stuff online because I want people to drive through and see all the other stalls, and like there's amazing other vendors that are there and stuff, and it's about being there. And if you've never been or you haven't been for 10 years or something, you're just assuming it's maybe not for you or you won't like all of it. Like I want you to come there and be surprised.
Yeah, and it's so personal as well because you're given that experience. You're handing over the clothing and you're kind of talking about it and you're finding out from them what they like, and then you meet people from that, and you lose that online. And it's just sad that the thing that I've found that I wanted to do is online presence. I've been off social media as well, and I've come back to it for this, and you know, it's not something, if I could do it without it, I would. But I'm not overly reliant on it either.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that, like, I think people are starting to appreciate that personal touch and being able to come into a store and talk to, like, because even going into a store, like, if you went into a sports shop in town, it's very, like, business, like, you don't have any chat with the people coming in. It's very like they're approaching you to be like, how many things can I sell you?
Yeah.
Whereas something like what you're doing is very much like personal, and there's a passion behind it, and you can sense that.
Yeah. And also like people don't have to, I mean, like the cow people community, like they message me directly on Instagram and stuff all the time, and I love that. And I'm just like, come down for a chat, like I'll be there this weekend, like just hang out as well. Like you don't it doesn't have to be transactional, like you don't have to be a customer either. You can just be someone who feels like you want to, I don't know, be whoever you decide to be that weekend at the Barras. Like the Barras is the Wild West, so it's like just come down, and you want to wear like an amazing mat outfit or whatever. The street style is so good these days there. Everyone's like showing up Julia Fox entirely. And that's been incredible to see. But just like it's wild. It's
a shame that like the Barras is just the Saturday and Sunday, but I think that's the magic of the Barras, you know.
Yeah. We need to sleep. Like we go dormant. We're like cicadas. Just even if you do have a 9 to 5, you just like you go grey and you turn off and you eat oats, and then the Barras you unleash it all.
So do you think that suits you then, that lifestyle of just working the 2 days, working really long and hard days, but having that week off, and the goal is not to open a shop that's working 24 hours, you know, or working 9 to 5 in a shop.
No, it's good because I'm very like all or nothing, and I think it helps. It's like a little bit of a middle ground with that, but also it follows that pattern of just unleashing something for like 48 hours straight, and then I'll like come home on a Sunday night, and like my poor housemate, because I won't have like drank water or like eaten meals or something, because I'm just like riding the thrill of it. And then she has to pick up the pieces. Just like, drink water. It's in a cup.
And you mentioned Dolly Parton earlier on. The
Yes.
music aspect of country is so important. So
Yes.
is there anybody that you're listening to that isn't really a big name that you would like to put over that people would listen to in particular? Or what are your favourite country artists?
This is a good question. So I like really old school country. And then I guess it's quite interesting because country in its translation to like the contemporary kind of got a bit something else. I don't know. It got a bit crazy frog.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Bit poppy.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's right. I mean, everything in capitalism is just about what's like commercial. So I love like really heartbreaking old country music, like Johnny Cash, Woody Guthrie. I mean, I love folk music as well, and country music and folk music have a tight kind of relationship.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, the storytelling within them is slightly different, but
it's not just guys screaming about their pickup trucks or
yeah,
their ex-wife
riding
or
a horse,
riding a beer.
riding a
formulaic
cowboy
now.
instead of a horse, or something.
Country's very formulaic. It's pretty much right. I can sing about drinking beer, sipping whiskey, my pickup truck. What else?
Like my mistress, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, but I'm like, maybe I'll come full circle because like old school countries. I was just this morning listening to like Hurt by Johnny Cash, which is originally like Trent Reznor. Yeah. But I was like, shoot, maybe contemporary country will actually come full circle back to like this.
Yeah.
Because they're singing about whatever, their mistresses and like whatever, just loving a pickup truck and stuff. But later on when the sun sets and maybe they let that one get away and it'll just be this like desire that will only die when you die. It just, time won't heal it, just the heartbreak. So yeah, I think it's been very superficial for a while, but I love really like Glenn Campbell and Gene Autry and really old school. And then I think because I love really sad music and really heartbreaking music, I kind of, the contemporary manifestation of that is, I think, just really like indie folk. So I am obsessed with like Phoebe Bridgers and Boy Genius and anything Conor Oberst ever does. And yeah, just, Big Thief. And it's not like, none of that is country. I also think these like delineations and these like compartments that we put in everything in doesn't really matter either. Like if it's country to me, if it's about like raw heartbreak in the way that old school country was about landscapes and people that got away that will never come back, and it's just like raw and bottomless in its regret and mourning. I've just followed that kind of into the indie folk scene.
Yeah, and Johnny Cash is perfect for that. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really describe Johnny Cash as country. I don't know why.
I know.
I think it would be more folk, but
Yeah.
he plays on that fine line. But you know, when you listen to the kind of sessions that he did towards the end of his life, where he was getting people writing songs and being like, "I've wrote this for you because it's perfect." Like I think Glenn Danzig from the band Danzig had wrote 13 and it was like, "I've wrote this with you in mind. Here, can you sing it?" And he was just made such a career of being a cover guy. They're so good. He brings so much more depth to any song, and I love all his old stuff as well. Even when he was doing the kind of gospel stuff at the start of his career. I'm a massive Johnny Cash fan from the days of seeing the film Walk the Line. That had a huge impact on me when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting, and that's an interesting part of pop culture. I mean, and Elvis obviously transcends a few genres. I feel like Elvis is always like the Barra's darling as well, which is why I love the Barras. I found like a Elvis karate certificate from Tennessee the other day in one of the stalls. Like it was like he had he had gotten his like purple belt or something in Tennessee, and it was this like plaque about it.
What?
I don't actually know why I didn't buy it, and I now almost want to leave immediately and see if it's there.
Yeah.
No one buy it. I need to buy it.
Elvis fans are nuts.
I know.
You know, there's people that have their full house, everything's Elvis.
That's,
I don't know what
heroes.
it'd be like to love someone that much.
They're my heroes. But yeah, but like it's interesting with Walk the Line or the Elvis movie. I mean, I hated the new Elvis movie, but it does bring a contemporary relevance to things that we kind of, people who aren't diehard fans might just leave behind. So I think in that way, even if you do have to make a horrible movie about it, at least there's a resurgence of
I thought
that.
Austin Butler was fantastic. I think they cast him perfectly, and like I thought that I've always got respect for people that go method acting, and you know the amount of work that
he
put
kept the
into,
accent.
Yeah, still does. And I love it that people are calling him out about it as well. Being like, you still sound like Elvis, man. Come on, fuck off.
I'm just like, wow.
I mean, when I said I think he was perfectly cast, you sounded like you disagreed. I mean, I didn't enjoy the film as much.
It felt like a 3-hour-long TikTok about Elvis. I wanted Lisa, I wanted Priscilla to be Lana Del Rey.
What a shout.
Maybe he could have been, maybe he was fine as Elvis. I didn't like anything Tom Hanks was doing.
No.
And I just didn't like, I thought when the movie started, I saw it in Amsterdam. When the movie started, I thought, is this a weird preview for the movie? Because it's just edited in this way. It's just lurching forward. It's just shouty.
Yeah.
You don't have to shout. Like Elvis is quite like, we know why we're here. We don't need to be like blasted with this.
Yeah.
And it was just whatever. But I do think there's like a big part of like, the zeitgeist of like, that is like fed by all of these things. And even if it isn't something that I'm like, that pleased with how it came out, it still brings it back in a way that I'm happy about.
I agree. I wasn't a big fan of the movie at all, and you know my parents watched it, and you know I think to some people they were like, I loved it, and I was like, wasn't a fan of Tom Hanks in it either. I thought that was probably one of his worst performances
ever.
It just didn't come across great at all. But I genuinely thought Austin Butler was fantastic in it. But other than that, it didn't have a lot going for it. I didn't like the mashup. I know that's Baz Luhrmann's thing of mashing up old music and new music, and kind of it just sounded so weird. Just let Elvis's music be in it. You don't have to make it a remix by some artist that we don't know. But
that last scene though, where you know he's gonna die, and he's just singing about kind of being heartbroken by life and stuff, and you're like, shoot, this is this if any part of this movie has gotten me, it's probably only this bit. But
maybe
tricky.
Austin Butler just needed to be another director took this over, and the casting was a lot better and the story was a lot better. I know they were kind of going for that unique relationship that it had with the Colonel, and you know,
but we don't need to we want to re-experience it without the, I don't know, we know how hard celebrities have it. We know how greedy people are around them. I just want to see Elvis.
And we've spoke about country music, but I mean, briefly, I feel like we could have a conversation all day about country music. But there's also,
and I don't know what you normally talk about here. It's just like you've not been to my stall, I've not listened to your podcast.
I know, right?
But maybe I've like, is it normally music, movies?
It's kind of like a bit of everything. But what I've found is that I'm more interested in people's stories and what their interests are.
Cool.
You can see my logo up there, like that's just some of my interests, but I'm interested in what other people's pop culture interests are. It's not about me. It's just that if I get people on and they happen to want to talk about football, or they want to talk about wrestling or movies or whatever is relevant in the pop culture umbrella. But what I'm finding now is I'm much more interested in what people have got going on and their story. So,
cool.
I mean, the Pop Culture patter thing is just a bit of a front, really.
Yeah.
I just can't figure a name
Well, it
to be like.
reflects, like, the pop culture that we interact with reflects, like, who we are and what we want to see in the world. And, I don't know, where we're at, because it's always changing, isn't it?
Yeah. I know it's mad that we've just been brought together through just a suggestion, and you and I have been messaging for about a week, maybe.
Yeah,
just off
yeah.
and on.
Yeah, you're going to give me, like, Bruce tickets or something. Don't laugh.
Well, you're hanging on to that. You never know. We'd obviously talked about the clothing. We talked about the music, but the Western movies as well is a massive thing. Were you ever was that like your thing when you watched when you grew up? Were you a big Western fan or?
So I have with the movies, I think I have a similar relationship to the movies as like I do to like things like classic rock, where I'm like, fuck classic rock, actually. Like calling women girls and whatever, and this glam rock, whatever, I don't know, like, and just like not a woman in it and whatever. So even though that's where, like the music that I like today's come from, I like a lot of contemporary Westerns. Brokeback Mountain is my favorite movie of all time, of course. And Nope was really amazing. I saw that in theaters.
Love Jordan Peele.
Yeah, it was I know, gosh, like what a gift. Saw it in theaters and it was such like a visual, it's just such a visual medium that I was like, wow, this was one to see in theaters. I love old school Westerns when I feel like I can see myself reflected back in them. So like I love Thelma and Louise, 9 to 5. Yeah. But when you get into like, I don't know, Clint Eastwood's back catalog and stuff, it's like just someone who identifies as a woman needing to be saved or something by all these men with all the guns and all the things. And I don't really, there's a lot of guns in America. So I don't really seek out movies where there's just like what seems like a 3-hour-long gunfight. Because I'm like, I kind of have seen actually how dark and horrible everyone having guns is. I don't need more of that. But I do need more like gay cowboys on a mountain watching sheep or whatever else happening.
The whole gun thing in America goes whole political, but it is pretty much like the Wild West, and I make a purpose of not making this podcast too political. Yes. There's people out there that have that and that's their thing, but no, there's the news is dreadful for guns, but and I'm very much of the opinion. I'm saying I'm not going political, and then I'm like, well, here's my opinion. But no, I just, how many instances do we need to happen for somebody to be like, no guns? Yeah. Imagine if Scotland had guns. We were talking about that the other day. Like, it would be crazy. It'd be like an Aldi. You put your prices up for last week, you fucking bastard.
It would be, I couldn't even imagine actually. Yeah, I couldn't. And and I know, it's so complicated, but
I'll tell you what we will do. We'll not focus on the gun thing. Let's talk about Brokeback Mountain.
Let's talk about Brokeback Mountain.
There's a much more special message behind that.
There we go.
I think that came out in 2008 maybe?
I think it was
slightly earlier than that.
I think it was maybe 2004.
Yes, so
but I am quite bad with years and movies.
No, I think you're right, because Heath Ledger passed in 2008, I think. So, which devastated me. And
I've never recovered.
I've never
I've never been that sad about. I actually was never sad about celebrity death before that, and even when like Prince and Bowie died, I just remember thinking, this is nothing compared to what I felt when Heath Ledger died. Yeah, and I love them as well.
I have such a weird like story about that day. Like I felt off, and like I checked the news and it was Heath Ledger's dead, and I was like, something in me, my whole body just shut down and was like, what's going on? But then something felt like something was born within me, and I was like, this is affected me in such a weird way that I never knew, because I don't know him, you know, but I was a massive fan. And I was a massive fan before he was even, you know, the Joker, which catapulted him. And I think if he had survived, he would have hated the fame that he got from that. Like, but I saw Brokeback Mountain young, and I'm, you know, white, straight, male, and been around kids that have thrown away comments, and I think if you admitted to your friends that you'd watched Brokeback Mountain, that instantly put you in that category of you're gay, you know. But it's such a beautiful film, and it's like the story set of, you know, two guys that, you know, can't be without each other and have loved each other. It's just such a powerful thing in that. And if that was released today, you know, they might have milked it a bit more, but at the time that it got released, it's just incredible.
I know. And Heath, I think, you know, when they go on the media circuit about these movies, some reporters in interviews wanted to kind of joke about, you know, like the role he played and stuff. And what I love about him and the bravery of all of his storytelling is, like, he was like, it's a love story, and it's like just moved me to my core, and I refused whatever you're going for. This isn't a joke. This is the art that I've put into the world. He's stood by it, whether within the movie or beyond it, always. And that was during, like, I mean, I'm not really good at history, but George Bush's Don't Ask, Don't Tell era.
A completely different time, it feels, from what we're living in now, but
in some ways, and what a just remarkable love story and film. Everything about that film just does it for me.
It's so good. And I think if it was a male and a female that were in the movie, you know, it would have been talked about a lot more, you know.
Do you think so?
I think so, yeah. It just maybe just the time that it came out. I know people look back on it now and are like, what an amazing movie, but at the time, you know, it was a lot of controversy around it. Maybe here, it's maybe not in America, but I absolutely love Heath Ledger, so I don't get to speak about him enough.
I know.
But I never forget. I always have a little moment when it's his birthday, you know. I always have a bit of a 10 minutes to just think about him and just be like, thank you for all the good stuff, the performances that go under the radar as well. Monster Ball, Candy, you know, he threw himself into Lords of Dogtown, you know, he threw himself into every role, and it's just such a great actor.
I know. God.
But on that somber note, we're going to wrap up there, but where can the people find your presence online? I know we've talked about today. The good cow people in the world.
So the Instagram is the cow people, one word. And I have a TikTok as well, but I've never been on TikTok before making TikToks, and it's kind of heinous. So I'm not going to plug that. I don't really know how to do it or what's happening there.
I don't have that.
It might be really, you know, when you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, so this might either be brilliant or like really trash. It definitely rides that line, but I think probably in a really trash way. So the Instagram is called The Cow People, and we're at the Barras every weekend. And it's just going to grow. It's not going to go away. It's just going to grow. So it's exciting for that. We want to have like a big, I don't want to give anything away, but like a big launch party with line dancing and stuff. And
do you know, I was actually going to ask that, and I normally get this after the session's over, so I'm glad you've given me this. Like an event would be amazing to have. Like I'm a huge fan of theme like events. You know, I'm a big Halloween guy, so
me too.
So if somebody was like, I'm throwing a Halloween party, I'm like, yes.
That's my favorite thing about the Barras as well, is it's always Halloween every weekend. You know, just like, Blink's song Halloween on Christmas. It's like Halloween on every weekend at the Barras from 10 to 4.
Yeah.
I love, And when you go on Halloween, it's even more Halloween than Halloween.
Yeah.
Because in America, Halloween's huge. And so, I just love it because I'm a bit goth and I just love, I was Crazy Frog one year. This is the second time I've mentioned Crazy Frog at the Barras. And it was insane. It was grotesque, but it was.
Yeah. So an event is in the pipeline, and you're going to get that going.
Yeah. Just watch this space. You'll know via Instagram.
How appropriate if you're looking for an outfit for that event. Then there's a little place at the Barras called the Cow People that you can visit.
Yes.
But with that being said, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to have you. I look forward to seeing the Cow People grow and get down and see it. But thank you for taking the time out of a really warm day in Glasgow and Easter Friday to come in and record with me.
We're lucky. It's not just winter. Thank you so much for having me. It's been loads of fun.
You're very welcome, and we'll see you next Tuesday.